Sasuke lost some of the most powerful abilities in the Naruto verse when he was stabbed in the eye by Borushiki, destroying his Rinnegan. And while many people will point to this being a major nerf for Sasuke, I actually think the opposite could be true. And there's a chance that Sasuke now is even more powerful than before. And that's why today we're talking Sasuke is even stronger after he lost the Rinnegan. But before we get into anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Alright, so first and foremost, we have to acknowledge what Sasuke realistically lost after losing the Rinnegan. He lost one of his most versatile abilities, that being Heavenly Hand Power, his ability to swap his location with another person or another object. This is something that we saw him utilize a ton throughout the Boruto timeline. In his battles against Momoshiki and Ishiki, he spammed this ability time and time again, and it seemingly almost always got him out of a lot of precarious situations. And he also lost the ability to teleport to different dimensions. That's how he was able to locate the 10 tails that Kara had been cultivating. And while this ability wasn't too useful in the heat of battle, it was a way to ensure he or other people could never get trapped in another dimension by enemies like the Otsutsuki. This would have happened to Naruto when Jigen took him to another dimension if Sasuke hadn't arrived. So this definitely is something that Sasuke is going to miss moving forward. And aside from that, another ability Sasuke did lose was the ability to utilize the push and pull ability, similar to how Tendo Pain uses Almighty Push. However, Sasuke realistically, outside of his battle with Naruto in the Final Valley, never uses any version of this ability outside of Chubaku Tensei, aka Planetary Devastation. And even this ability, he only uses once in his fight against Momoshiki. And as for all of the other abilities that the Rinnegan can use, Sasuke never uses any one of them outside of his battle against Naruto in the Final Valley. So I wouldn't necessarily call any of those major losses, as most of them don't really contribute to Sasuke's fighting style. And while yes, he does lose some of his visual perception that his 6th Tomoe Rinnegan did grant him, we have to keep in mind that he still has an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, something that grants him an absurd level of visual perception. And while I can acknowledge losing something like Heavenly Hand Power is going to dampen his abilities moving forward, going against some of these absurd enemies that we see being introduced, someone like Jura or even Code, we also can look at it another way. Now, it's no question that Sasuke is definitely going to be missing out on a lot of these abilities, specifically his Heavenly Hand Power. As I mentioned before, Sasuke utilizes Heavenly Hand Power probably more than any other ability in Boruto when he is fighting against really strong enemies, especially the Otsutsuki. So not being able to use that ability anymore could definitely hinder his ability to contribute in battles. However, Sasuke is still pretty powerful without the Rinnegan. So let's just look at, first and foremost, what he can still do without the Rinnegan. So Sasuke has the ability to utilize all 5 changes in chakra nature. He can use fire, wind, lightning, water, and earth style. He can also utilize yin release. Now, he doesn't have access to yin yang release or anything like that, and a lot of those abilities would have been tied to the Sage of Six Paths power that he was granted by Hagoromo anyway, similar to how Naruto was gifted a lot of those abilities. But still, even with just that, we have someone who can utilize all 5 chakra natures and also yin release. But it doesn't just end there, because in some of the light novels, specifically Sasuke Retsudan, we see Sasuke have the ability to utilize ice style. Now, this isn't the traditional ice release that we see used by Haku that is granted to him through a Kekkei Genkai. Instead, this is Sasuke utilizing his copy ninjutsu to mimic the ability to create ice style. He simultaneously utilizes wind release along with water release to mimic the abilities of ice release, and he's able to do things like create weapons out of ice release. He's able to do things like freeze very large areas, even part of an ocean. He can obviously put out fires with this and treat any type of burn injuries. And while yes, this isn't as useful as something that Haku could do, like creating that giant ice prison where he could just traverse at light speed throughout there and trap his enemies to the point where he could just pierce them with a bunch of senbon, this is still going to be incredibly useful for Sasuke's kit. However, that is not the most useful thing that Sasuke can still do. Although Sasuke lost his Rinnegan, you know what he didn't lose? His Mangekyo Sharingan. So he still has the ability to utilize Amaterasu and also Kagatsuchi. And before anyone says that Sasuke can't utilize Amaterasu anymore because his eye that activated Amaterasu was actually his left eye, aka his 6th Tomoe Rinnegan eye, while the other eye was the one that could utilize Kagatsuchi, this was only really highlighted in Shippuden and a couple of times in Boruto, whether it was an animation mistake or it was them hinting at something different. There are multiple times where Sasuke utilizes Amaterasu out of his right eye, showing us that it doesn't really matter which eye he uses which ability for. However, it goes even beyond that, because a lot of people like to say that Sasuke no longer has the ability to utilize his Susanoo after he lost that 6 Tomoe Rinnegan. And to them, I would just like to point out that Madara, during the 4th Great Ninja War, was able to utilize his Susanoo not with only one of his Sharingan, but with none of his Sharingan. Yes, you heard me correctly. Madara, during the 4th Great Ninja War, was able to activate his Susanoo without any Sharingan at all. And this is because that, yes, awakening the ability to utilize the Susanoo is tied to using both of your Mangekyo Sharingan abilities and unlocking their true potential. However, once this is done, it is an ability that you can use no matter what, even if you lose access to both of your Sharingan, because it's something that is more so tied to your chakra network versus being directly tied to your Sharingan. So using the evidence of Madara being able to utilize the Susanoo with no eyes, it stands to reason that Sasuke, even with just one Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, does still have the ability to utilize his Susanoo. So that being said, this means that Sasuke not only has the ability to utilize all 5 chakra natures, Yin Release, Amaterasu, Kagatsuchi, and also his perfect Susanoo. However, it goes even beyond that, because one of the biggest hindrances for Sasuke throughout the course of Boruto was his 6 Tomoe Rinnegan. And yes, I know I started the video out saying that Sasuke would spam his Heavenly Hand power, and he would utilize this ability probably more than anything else. And yeah, that is absolutely right. However, you know what else is also true about that ability? It is incredibly chakra depletive. Sasuke was almost always running on empty during his battles. And this wasn't just because he was spamming the abilities of his Rinnegan, which were, as I mentioned before, his most chakra depletive moves. He was also suffering from a great strain on his chakra pool. And this was due to the fact that he could not turn off his Rinnegan. Yes, he could theoretically turn off all of the Tomoe that were inside of his Rinnegan, but similar to how Kakashi couldn't turn off the Sharingan, Sasuke too could not turn off the Rinnegan. So this means that Sasuke at all times was essentially burning through chakra, ensuring that he could never utilize his entire pool of chakra that he had available. So that means every single battle that we saw Sasuke go into, he wasn't at full power. He wasn't using his full chakra that he had available to him because his chakra pool was being drastically hindered by his activated Rinnegan being on all of the time. And this is why someone like Hokage Kakashi is able to pull off things that Kakashi with the Sharingan just simply couldn't. And that's because his chakra pool was increased so drastically after losing the Sharingan, he was able to do things like create a mud quartz wall and maintain it for about 24 hours while a bombardment of lightning style attacks were hitting that mud quartz wall for 24 hours straight. And yet it didn't budge at all. This shows an absurd level of chakra that Kakashi gained access to thanks to not having that chakra suck from the Sharingan being activated all of the time. And Kakashi was also able to create a Fire Phoenix Jutsu that was able to extinguish an infinite water supply that was created by Hagoromo. Yeah, the Sage of Six Paths. And that's something that Kakashi was able to do after losing the Sharingan, just showing how much his chakra pool truly increased after no longer having the hindrance of the Sharingan always being activated. And this can go to Sasuke, except even more so. First and foremost, Sasuke is confirmed to have more chakra than Kakashi. This is something that Kakashi quite literally says in early parts of Naruto and even reaffirms in Shippuden. However, it goes even beyond that, because although the Sharingan is very chakra depletive and having it activated for long periods of time will definitely take away a lot of your chakra, the Rinnegan is even more chakra depletive than the Sharingan is. This is why Madara had to find an Uzumaki to implant his Rinnegan in, because an Uzumaki was the only one that could use the abilities of the Rinnegan and could also stand the fact that these Rinnegan would be on at all times and they wouldn't be able to be something that were shut off. So you had to have a ton of chakra to even be able to have the Rinnegan. So it stands to reason that Sasuke's Rinnegan probably burns up even more chakra than Kakashi's Sharingan always being activated did. So now that we take that away, Sasuke is going to be able to have way more chakra in battle. He's going to be able to utilize even more powerful jutsu way more frequently. But how exactly does this mean that Sasuke is more powerful than he was with his Rinnegan? Well, I think that is the exact reason and the exact contributing factor in this case. Now that Sasuke's chakra pool is probably at the very least doubled, he is going to be able to have access to way more powerful jutsu than he's ever had before. And he's going to be able to spam a lot of moves that he couldn't spam in the past. Certain things with his Susanoo, certain things with Amaterasu paired with Kagatsuchi. He's going to be able to utilize a very different form of flame control than we've ever seen him use before, because his chakra pool is probably now double what it's ever been before. And while we don't know exactly what we're going to see out of this version of Sasuke, as right now currently in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, he is just chilling out in a tree. When he does return, I do believe there will be a chance that we're going to see Sasuke undergo some type of transformation, some type of change that is going to make him very relevant in the Boruto story. Now, could this be a new type of Susanoo? Could this be a new version of his Amaterasu paired with Kagatsuchi? That we just do not know, at least not yet, but I do have a couple of theories, so make sure to subscribe for that. But all that being said, I feel like this realistically just comes down to the available chakra that Sasuke now has. Sasuke is going to be able to hang in battles even longer than he could before. He's going to be able to sustain his Susanoo even longer than he could before. And yes, we saw Jigen be able to punch straight through his Susanoo. I feel like that is just going to set up for Sasuke to try to evolve his Susanoo even more than we've seen him do in the past. Something like he did when he powered up his Susanoo using 8.5-tailed beasts, giving him access to something like Indra's arrow. And we have to remember that Sasuke has one of the highest IQs in all of Naruto and all of Boruto. So pair that with the fact that his chakra pool just got way more massive, he is going to be able to adapt to this situation. And he even says to Sakura and Naruto that a shinobi has to deal with the hand they are dealt. So he knows very well that yes, he might have lost one of his most versatile abilities. However, he also lost a major hindrance from his Rinnegan, the insane chakra drain that the Rinnegan causes because he can never turn it off. So I believe this is going to lead to Sasuke being able to use even more crazy jutsu than we've ever seen him use before, leading to him actually becoming even more powerful than he was with his 6-Tomoe Rinnegan. But I'm interested to hear from all of you. Do you think Sasuke is more or less powerful without his Rinnegan? And when Sasuke eventually makes his return, do you think he will just have his Rinnegan back, or do you think he's going to have to adapt and utilize a totally different fighting style thanks to his increased chakra pool? Let me know in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye.